हाइपोथेटिकली सीजन 1 अगर हमारे पास 5 इंडियंस होते हमारे रोस्टर में, वी वुड हैव बीन डिस्क्वालिफाइड.
3 नाम मैं बोल देता हूँ, टेक्नो, डीएम, गोलू.
I would like to say one thing about Deathmaker. I was so impressed with his gameplay. ये बंदा खेल सकता है VCT में. Until I saw.
It's been a long journey in the VCT circuit. As we head into the 2025 season, we thought we might as well just have a unfiltered, brutally honest discussion about where GE is headed in the future.
Well, almost the last decade has been insane, but specifically when we're talking about VCT, the last 2 years have been a roller coaster ride. I think I'm fairly confident with where we're at right now. So अभी तो journey शुरू हो रही है, मजा तो अब आएगा.
What's up for you in both the seasons of VCT? We've had different rosters. We faced completely different sets of challenges. What do you think went right for us and went wrong for us in the last 2 years? हम क्या सीखे हैं उससे?
लास्ट 2 ईयर में ना हम बहुत कुछ सीखे हैं फ्रॉम अ मैनेजमेंट पर्सपेक्टिव एज वेल. बहुत कुछ सीखे हम एज अ कंपनी पर्सपेक्टिव एज वेल, राइट. कैसे प्लेयर पिकअप करना है, क्या टैलेंट देखना है, क्या क्वालिटीज देखनी है, क्या टीम एनवायरनमेंट कैसा बनाना है, क्या टीम कोहेजन होना चाहिए, पर्टिकुलर प्लेयर की क्या इंडिविजुअल क्वालिटीज होनी चाहिए. वो तो आई थिंक हम 2 साल में, फर्स्ट ईयर में आई थिंक मेजर लर्निंग थी हमारी, गेटिंग वेरी गुड एमर्स टुगेदर, ट्राइंग टू फिगर कि हम उनको एक साथ खेलना कैसे सिखा सकते हैं. उसमें भी हमने थोड़ी थोड़ी डिफिकल्टीज फेस करी है, इंडिविजुअल एज पर इंडिविजुअल प्लेयर लेवल. आई वुड से वी ट्राइड टू रेक्टिफाई, बट एज एवरीवन नोस कैसा रिजल्ट था. ओवरऑल जो हमने फर्स्ट सीजन में प्लेयर स्काउट करे थे, आई थिंक दोज प्लेयर्स वर हाईली इम्पैक्टफुल, बट आई वोंट डिनाई द फैक्ट कि वी कुडंट make them play together. I think it's fair to say that कि हम first season में उनको एक साथ नहीं खिला पाए. That was,
they couldn't play as a team.
Yeah, they couldn't play as a
They were
team.
all great individual players. They couldn't
Correct.
play as a team.
They were all like 5 duelists and they had the firepower. We know they can shoot.
I think season 2 में most of all हमारा team culture बहुत अच्छा था, team cohesion बहुत अच्छा था. They used to respect each other in season 2. I'm saying थोड़ा मेरे हिसाब से what I saw and what I observed, थोड़ा मेहनत, I would say मेहनत तो था, बट तुम्हें अच्छे से बहुत अच्छा बनना पड़ता है. तो उसके लिए एक प्लेयर, एक कोच क्या कर रहा है उस टीम के साथ, बिकॉज 11-12 टीम ऑलरेडी खेल रही है, राइट. वो भी रोज सुबह उठते हैं, रोज सुबह प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, वॉर्ड्स देखते हैं, टीम फीडबैक करते हैं, रिव्यू करते हैं प्रैक्टिस, राइट. वो 5 और 6 प्लेयर और वो 2-3 कोचेस क्या एक्स्ट्रा कर रहे हैं, दैट इज व्हाट मैटर्स. हार्डवर्क था टीम में. सीजन 2 में भी मेहनत कोचेस ने, जितना मैंने देखा है, आई थिंक स्पिन बिग टाइम ने बहुत मेहनत करी है. आई डोंट,
probably more than the players, I would say, in some ways.
yes, probably more than the players. उन्होंने बहुत मेहनत करी है. इट्स जस्ट वो रिजल्ट्स कन्वर्ट नहीं हो पाए स्टेज पे, राइट. तो वो कंसिस्टेंसी वाला पार्ट थोड़ा मिसिंग था थ्रू आउट द सीजन, आई वुड से. एंड
जब तक वो आया सीजन खत्म हो गया.
बहुत लोगों को लगता है कि वी हैव एवरीथिंग फिगर्ड. ऐसा नहीं है. हम भी सीख रहे हैं, सब सीख रहा है, वो से अराउंड द ई-स्पोर्ट्स कम्युनिटी, राइट. एवरीवन इज लर्निंग, एवरीवन इज, किसी लोगों के
पास, and not just in India, all across. Means ये Fnatic भी पहले सीजन जीत के हारा है उसके बाद ना, आगे जाके. So they also struggled. So it's every team has their struggles. Every team needs to learn. I'm not comparing us to them, but I'm just saying that every team needs to figure it out, and we are also on that path कि हम भी figure out कर रहे हैं. I would also like to add, operationally a lot of things were very different for us season 1 and season 2. I think season 1 हमारे biggest troubles were logistically and operationally the transition into VCT, because we were talking about it, like it started off, we had to operationally move everything to Korea, get our players over there, get visas and everything sorted. I think fortunately for us, because we had 7 players in our roster, there were multiple instances where Golu and Rossi couldn't even get their visa because the Indian passport wasn't strong enough to have them keep traveling back and forth to Korea and spend enough time there. इसलिए बाकी के 5 players were at least there. Like, we were fortunate कि we didn't miss matches on stage. हमारे लिए that itself was a very big achievement. We didn't miss any of our matches, because there was a time that Riot emailed us and said, guys, there's a very good chance y'all won't make it to your matches on stage. And if that happens, y'all will be in a very big breach, because y'all won't have enough active players in the country eligible to be able to play on stage. Like, वो भी situation आ गया था season 1 में. So there were lots of things that we had to face. Where fortunately we had Wronski, we had Bazi, we had Monier, we had enough players that we could keep rotating in and out. And then Golu also came, Rossi came. There were. That's why we were almost the only team in VCT that had a different roster potentially every match that they played on stage in first season.
मुझे अभी भी याद है कितने पापड़ बेलने पड़ते मुझे रॉसी और गोलू का वीजा लगवाने के लिए, राइट? जिसको भी सैलरी मिल रही है या कोई भी अमाउंट ऑफ कॉम्पनसेशन मिल रहा है किसी भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से खेलने के लिए, मेक श्योर their contract is in place, their taxes are
wait, most
in
importantly,
place.
please file your taxes, guys.
Yeah.
You will not get a visa for any country without your IT returns. अगर आपके पास income tax returns नहीं है, government बोलेगी we do not assume you have made any money because you've not filed any returns. हमें पता कैसे तुमने पैसे कमाए. So every athlete, please file your income tax returns. अभी नहीं किया तो फाइन भर के प्लीज फाइल कर दो पिछले 1, 2, 3 साल का जितने भी. कहीं का वीजा नहीं मिलना विदाउट IT returns.
Right. अभी ये सिचुएशन आ गई थी, I won't say the name, but it was like मैंने कहा bro ITR returns दे. He said वो क्या होता है? I was like भाई
ये एक नहीं बहुत सारे ऐसे सिचुएशंस हैं.
ऐसा मत बोलो.
Now, what's gonna happen to a young player, let's say 17, 18 years of age, जिसने जिंदगी में कोई कभी जॉब किया नहीं है?
Then it's fine, not first. Then it has to be parents,
Yes.
PAN card, parents'
Correct.
details. Your parent has to sign the contract along with you. Your legal guardian has to then submit all their paperwork. There are a massive number of orgs in India who have underage players sign contracts. Those contracts are not legally binding.
And because they're not signed
under
by
the
the
age of
guardian.
18 cannot sign a contract. You need their parent or legal guardian to sign the contract. So अगर आप 18 years से नीचे और आपने कोई contract sign किया है, please अपनी ऑग को जाके बोलिए कि this contract needs to be changed and my legal guardian or parent needs to sign it. I cannot sign it. I am a minor.
Yeah, I mean हम लोग synergy and जीतने की बात कर ही नहीं सकते जब हम खेलने के लिए ही struggle कर रहे हैं. Like players ही नहीं, हम खेल ही नहीं पाएंगे.
पहुंचे तो सही.
Right.
I will also say this: the kind of problems that we are having to solve, there aren't people in the country that are professionally capable of being able to solve them. Like we have got the best and smartest people from ENY, from KPMG, from PwC that are helping us out with all our paperwork, our compliances, our taxation, and even they are like, bro, there isn't any provision in the government for this because jo tum log kar rahe ho is happening for the first time. Like there are times like we have got banks that have reached out to us and said, please esports के लिए RBI को y'all apply कि esports के लिए एक clause बनाए. Like bro, अगर हमें अगर वो करना पड़े 6 साल हमारे पेमेंट्स अटक जाने.
The bank is asking you to go to the RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, and create a clause.
Yes.
They're basically
asking track kar paye because they don't know what category to put it under, especially for foreign remittance because we have so much money. There's crores of rupees coming in from Riot that we are paying ridiculous amounts of tax on, and the banks don't know where to categorize it.
Because nobody's ever done this before.
Nobody.
तो हमारे अकेले कंपनी के लिए
league in esports that has got paid crores of rupees coming into India. It's never happened in the history of our country. There have been, I don't want to say the amount, but multiple crore rupees worth of payments that have come in, and the bank doesn't know how to categorize, so they've sent it back. And Riot calls us a month later, and they're like, पेमेंट वापस आ गई, क्या करे इसका? लाइक ये क्या हो गया, बैंक ने रिवर्स कर दिया.
So they're literally asking you to like go to the RBI, create a new law or a clause to be put in the freaking Constitution of India so you can get the payment.
The time duration for this can be anywhere between 6 months to 6 years to 60 years. Like we don't know how long it can take to get something like this added. ये कभी हुआ ही नहीं है, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's tried to change the Constitution of India. Oh, हिसाब से change the rules and regulations.
We won't have to change the Constitution, but we will have to work with the RBI to add all these new payment schedules and laws, and so it recognizes. But all that is, it's a nightmare. It's not something easy that we can just do के form भर के हो गया.
Okay, so I didn't want to get into the money topic right away.
Let's get into it.
Should we get into it now? कि बाद में.
I love starting with all the juicy stuff. Let's go.
I was going to ask more about the 2025 roster, but no, I think money aspect is a little more
let's go
more
money, and then we'll say the roster stuff for the year. 2025 is, let's save the best for the last.
You did mention that there's crores and crores of rupees coming in.
Also crores and crores going out, which is very scary to the government as well.
Yes.
क्यों इतने पैसे जा रहे कोरिया या US या UK या जिधर भी, wherever all the money is being spent and going out, why is it going? So much money.
So how much does G earn versus like how much do they spend? I'm assuming there's a lot more expenditure than there is.
Okay, so I can't share numbers, but what I can tell you is October 2022 is when we got into VCT. So 2017 August to October 2022, 5 years, the amount we earned We have earned double of that from 2022 October to now. So in the last 2 years.
So, and have the expenses also increased in that
Probably
manner?
4 times, 5 times.
Of course, of
If our
course.
revenue has gone up, our expenses have also gone up
If
significantly.
if the expenses have increased, how do you afford to keep going? Like, other expense is obviously more than your revenue. How do you afford to keep
So
moving
right
on?
now we have been doing debt financing. A lot of what we've done is debt financing. Fortunately, because all these payments are coming in, the banks also see it. So since we have a lot of purchase orders with Riot and we have millions of dollars moving in and out of these accounts, now the banks are more open. So we have debt financing that we do with the bank. So that's how we keep managing our cash flows right now.
Yeah.
But we are looking at raising a round of investment. I think we were waiting for the first 2 seasons to happen because now we have 2 financial years worth of papers to show them. We have our fair projections in place. We know at what point we're at break even, profitability. We have all those numbers because in the first year when people came, actually as soon as we got into VCT, there were VCs chasing us and saying, hey, you just got into this league, we want to invest. We didn't know where to value ourselves at, what kind of revenue we would be expecting, what kind of logistical things we've done. We've spent the last 2 years figuring out operationally, structurally, everything where we're in a very comfortable place. The only thing that we were struggling with was the competitive side, which season 3 onwards, when we talk about the roster, is also sorted out now. But I think operationally, we're in a very comfortable place now. And now we're
Speaking
looking to
of
go to
that,
market and raise funding.
you mentioned profitability as a thing,
Right.
right? So there's a certain point in time in the future where you are going to be profitable. Is that close by, or is it closer than you think, or farther away?
Okay, so this
You can
will
choose
sound...
to dodge
No,
that, but
I will tell you that, though I want to say this because it's going to sound very funny because it's true. People will know this soon enough because these records end up being public. On paper, as of financial year filing 2024, Global Esports is profitable.
We broken even.
We are profitable on paper. We haven't broken even because we spent a lot to get
in
here
the past.
and our burn is ridiculous. But on paper, as of our tax filings, Global Esports is a profitable company that has generated more than... I can even say this because probably you're going to see this in the tax. Actually, let people do the hard work. I won't say the amount. People, you can go on public records here. You can see that Global Esports is a officially profitable company as of income tax returns of financial year 2024. We are also consolidating and scaling up a lot of our operations. When you talk about profitability in the scale that you guys are talking about, I think the next 2 years we'll be in a very good place. I think Global Esports will be in a very good place in the next 2 years.
What are the current major revenue sources for Global Esports?
Riot Games.
And
Riot Games.
apart
Riot
from
Games.
that,
I would say 90% is Riot Games. So 2 years ago, before VCT, Valorant would account for maybe 10-15% of our revenue. Since we have joined VCT, our first season, Riot accounted for about 70% of our revenue. And now the last season, Riot has been 90% of our revenue. We are looking at scaling up from here. I think what Riot has been able to do for us, no other publisher has. And we are now in a very, very comfortable position, at least as of our balance sheets and our profit and loss statements. So cash flows, of course, we are managing, and that's of course an operational thing. So all companies face that. So we're not really worried about that. But there are a lot of new things that you will see happening in the years 2025 and 2026. I think 2025 and 2026 are going to be the 2 biggest years for global esports.
बहुत लोगों को ये पता भी नहीं होगा कि जी एज अ स्टूडियो वाइट लेवल टूर्नामेंट भी करता था, कंटेंट भी शूट करता था, ब्रांड पार्टनरशिप भी करता था, कॉलेजेस में इवेंट्स भी करता था. बहुत लोगों को पता भी नहीं होगा ये पूरे टाइम हमने करा है.
So that वो GE के नाम से नहीं था.
Correct, वो GE के नाम से था. So that we can earn.
So the best example I keep giving, think of us like the mummy and papa. हम लोग जाके दिन भर काम करते थे, पैसे जमा करके हमारे बच्चों की सैलरी भरते थे.
Right.
And उनके बूट कैंप का खर्चा उठाते थे.
We can put that resources and all the money in esports to fund BGMI, Valo, all the teams we had back then, right? अब जब से VCT आया, we were more like कि ठीक है यार अभी VCT आया, Riot trust us, ये partnership है, why not align all the resources and everything and only focus on Riot.
Yeah, because we had a very clear path as to what Riot can do for us and how we can monetize this. And of course, the VCT being a stable league, हमारे लिए it made sense to use all our studio resources rather than provide white label solutions to other people in the ecosystem. If we double down and start providing all our studio services to Riot and for our VCT roster, So that's what we did the last 2 years. And I think we have our studio business in the last 2 years since VCT, through everything we've done, has probably earned about $1 million. And just to clarify, all this was only possible because Riot as a partner has fixed revenue that they give to VCT teams. If that revenue was not there, none of this would have been possible. Like every other esports team that does not have this Riot revenue coming in is struggling.
So that means all the teams in the challenger leagues and everyone who's vying for ascension, how will they survive?
It's very hard. Most of them are shutting down. It's just too expensive. It's too expensive, especially with the competition coming in. Like you saw, forget challengers. Even in VCT, there was an article that came out a couple of days ago where Rob Moore was talking about what the numbers look like for Sentinels. He said the first year at VCT, they made about $2.9 million in revenue, but they lost about $8.8 million. So it cost them $8.8 million to make $2.9 million. It's a very expensive VCT roster.
इतना पैसा जाता कहाँ पे है? Like, how do you end up spending so much? Is it just player salaries?
I would say majority of it is, yes, cost of people, not just player salaries. It could be a creator, it could be the content team that is making the content, it could be a content director, it could be the managerial staff, it could be the C-level staff, it could be a brand name. Like, I'm sure for Sentinels, their biggest cost was probably Tens and Tariq. I'm assuming. I don't know. I could be wrong. But that's just my assumption, right? For them, that could be. And plus, they have a massive, very fancy office in the heart of LA. Insane place. It's like, what I don't know, 20, 30,000 square feet on like the 30th floor in a glass building in Los Angeles with a 360-degree view of the city. It's insane. You can see in every direction. Like, you can see the Pacific Coast Highway from the office. Like, you could play a cricket match in their office. That's how big it was. Like, I'm not even kidding.
बहुत ज़्यादा बड़ा था भाई.
Like, मैं मजाक नहीं कर रहा. At least 4-5 VCT team आराम से वो एक ऑफिस में अपना
बूट कैंप कर लेंगी.
पूरा बूट कैंप कर सकते हैं without even clashing with each other.
Too small for my Mumbai living brain to comprehend.
Yeah, so the scale at which those teams are operating, how does a challengers team compete with that? Forget challengers team. We are in VCT. How do we compete with that? We're not a VC back team. We're barely struggling to make months meet at the end of it. Like every time we're at the end of the month, चले, अरे end of the month आ गया, salary time, payments time, क्या होगा? ठीक है, कुछ जुगाड़ करते हैं. Like that's been since the day Global Esports started. That's how we've been operating. We've been very, very scrappy. We've never had VCs that have come in and spent millions of dollars. Even our seed round of funding was a very, very, I would say, modest seed round of funding. Like today, the amount we raised in our seed round, today that's our monthly burn at G.
How long ago was this seed?
2019.
29. Oh, तो फिर तो काफी time हो गया. Yeah, then the scales have drastically changed since then. Now, since VCT is a circuit where a lot of these teams have leveled up in scale and everything, I want to know why not a lot of other any publisher is able to create a league like this. Like, for example, recently, बहुत सारे BGMI orgs have been leaving the scene and just moving. We also, dropped our roster saying कि the ecosystem is not matured enough yet.
I'll start by why it works, why VCT works, is because Riot Games. Like that's the simple answer, because Riot Games, they understand esports probably better than most other publishers. They have experience for more than a decade through League of Legends. Even in VCT, since we got in, like Vatsal and I were just talking, the original agreement that we signed with, and now the kind of things that are happening, even in the last 2 years, have scaled so drastically, which is one thing that I really appreciated. I even mentioned this to Leo and Anna when we met at the Owners Summit at Champs, is that they have evolved so quickly and so drastically. Like, I knew they would make changes to VCT. I didn't know they would do it this fast. Like, Valorant was made with the intent to be an esports title. Like most games, you release the game, it's competitive, it's fun, people start competing, and esports accidentally happens. Even BGMI or PUBG Mobile, it accidentally became Fortnite. It accidentally became a big esport. They didn't release it with the intent. They released it with the intent of being a fun game, a cool game that people would love to play and enjoy. Riot intentionally does it. If Krafton wanted to intentionally look at esports, they would have a league. It's as simple as that.
Can you give an example of what one of these changes looks like?
I don't know how much I can share about the contract, but I'll tell you, for example, things like payments, they have increased and they have moved our minimum guarantees and payments around the payout structures. There were a laundry list of things that orgs had to do, which were compulsory, which they have eased off a lot on that. Like, hey, we understand this becomes an operational burden to you guys. Let's keep this optional. If you don't want to do it, don't. Here are our recommendations and why we want you to do this and what the impact is. If you all can find a better way to do it to get the same outcome, sure.
So they have also helped us individually a lot, and I think जो team struggle कर रही थी, कोरिया में एज अ बेस बनाने के लिए उन्होंने भी, रायट ने भी काफी हेल्प करा है बाकी और ये टीम्स को ना हैंडल करने में, वीजास लगाने में, फाइनेंशियल स्ट्रक्चर लाने में. सो आई थिंक things have been going pretty good for everyone who has been in the ecosystem for now, and right ने काफी help करा है बहुत सारी teams को.
See, I can't say anything about the other rosters, but with global esports, operationally, financially, structurally, and functionally, they have leveled us up very significantly.
Yeah.
I think the paperwork, the templates that they have provided, because जो भी reporting हमें करना होता है, it has structured a lot of our process in place. I don't think any other esports team in India is even close to doing what kind of structure that we have in place, just because we are getting it from the best of the best.
I have the questions from the audience, and this is one that people really love asking, right?
Oof.
Why is it that we can't put down a 5-man Indian roster in the VCT? What is the reason?
We can. Means if you're asking about the ability for us to do it, we can. We can get 5 Indians, whoever are the best 5 Indians that we can find. उनको बिठा के बोल सकते हैं खेलो, practice करो, सीखो. But that's not really doing anyone good. That is literally the definition of reservation or quota system, which we don't want to do that because they are Indians. We are putting them there. I don't think that's fair to them. Because जब वो हारेंगे सब बोलेंगे कि सपोर्ट करेंगे बट गाली तो पड़ेगी. Everyone's going to keep pointing out how unprepared they are for the stage, even mentally for the players. It's easy for the audience to say हाँ खेल लो, but you don't realize what it does to the mentality of a player when they have to go up there on stage in front of a crowd and when they're prepared for it, it's one thing. When they are unprepared for it and you're throwing them, it's unfair to put them into that situation mentally. A lot of players may not recover from that and they may not want to go back on that stage or give it another shot. Like why put you don't know what that player goes through mentally when going on stage. It's only a player would understand that, till you don't do it. It's very easy for an audience person to say usko khila do, usko khel lo, aisa kyun kiya, waisa kyun kiya, but it's very difficult to be that person to actually go up on stage and do what needs to be done. So for all Indian players, we did tryouts. Even this season, we did tryouts. Even the season before that, we have tried out. We are giving. Like for us, I've said this on stream earlier as well. For us, the best option, the easiest option is to do what everyone is saying. Take 5 Indian players, go to VCT, easy for us. The cost to us will be probably at league minimum. We can do everything. Everyone will give us a W in chat. Fans will give us a W in chat. Hamara kaam ho jayega. We don't need to do anything else. But that's not why we are here. That's not why we got into esports. That's not why we built this. If 5 Indians were qualified and capable enough to get to VCT, I promise you 5 Indians would have qualified and got to VCT. It is not us that is holding them back or not giving them opportunities. They can qualify through Premier. They can win at Challengers. They can qualify through Ascension. They can compete and get there. Or they can be so good that any other team at VCT can pick them up. Q Global Esports. Why? I know Global Esports is a team that's registered in India and is the Indian representation and is the org from SA. And we've had our legacy and roots here. Sure. But ऐसा क्यों नहीं है that the top players from India are getting offers from other regions? Why aren't they getting picked up from China? All the top Korean players are getting offers from China. All the top Australian players are getting offers from China. Why aren't the top Indian players getting offers from China? Why aren't they getting offers from EMA or Americas? Everyone in esports is there for only one reason, to win. So everyone will take players in their roster that will help them win. No one will intentionally want to put players in their roster that will not make them win. So I don't think it's fair to put players over there just because you feel that you want representation or you want an opportunity that they'll get practice. I don't think that's fair to us or to the league. That is what I meant when I said it compromise competitive integrity, but वो Twitter पे दूसरे level पे चलेगा. But ठीक है, that's.
I had a conversation about this as well. We like the same vision that we want to start doing exports. We want to have exports. Why do we always have imports? But Vatsal, I think you can explain this well, what that import culture has done. I think you have, of course, a bit of an opinion about it.
Before Vatsal jumps into this, you can actually, everyone that's watching this also, go see the stats. Forget the online phase, forget everything else. Go see the stats of just every LAN event that has happened in Challengers from season 1 and season 2 and just see the list. And see how many Indians are in the top 10 and how many imports are in the top 10 in India. जब इंडिया में ही इंडियंस नहीं जीत पा रहे हैं तो बाहर जाके क्या करें?
करेक्ट मेरा ना इसमें थोड़ा डिफरेंट पर्सपेक्टिव है. लाइक आई डोंट मीन टू ऑफेंड एनीवन ऑन दिस. दैट्स प्योरली
कर दो ऑफेंड अब क्या ही बचाओगे.
मेरे सामने बेस्ट केस एग्जांपल है कप्पा और भाविन, राइट? कप्पा और भाविन 12-15 साल खेले, प्रोफेशनली खेले, CS खेले, वैलो खेले, and then they have transitioned themselves from being a player to management or being helping building the team. कप्पा GC टीम के साथ था, करेक्ट. भाविन was with the VCT टीम. तो जितने भी अपने प्लेयर्स है जिनका 12, 13, 10, 8, 6 साल का एक्सपीरियंस है, राइट, इन द इंडियन सर्किट, दे हैव टू ट्रांजिशन फ्रॉम बीइंग अ प्लेयर फ्रॉम अ प्लेयर टू अ मैनेजरियल पोस्ट, ताकि उन लोगों ने जो 6 साल 6, 10, 15 साल जो गलतियां करी है और वो चाहते हैं दूसरे एथलीट्स ना करे, दूसरे यंग एथलीट्स जो अभी सीन में नए नए आ रहे हैं वो ना करे, they will have to be, क्या बोलते हैं वो, टॉर्च बेयरर, राइट. they will have to be those guys, क्योंकि अगर वो नहीं होंगे तो कौन होगा.
I mean, every generation is starting fresh. वही सेम गलतियां करेंगे, वही आगे बढ़ेंगे.
वेटरन प्लेयर्स है, उनको मैनेजरियल रोल में आना पड़ेगा इन एनी,
and they need to set the right examples.
they need to set the right example कि बॉस, मैं जब खेलता था 10-15 साल में मैंने ये गलती करी है, एंड आई विल मेक श्योर कि जो कल यंग प्लेयर आ रहा है वो ये सब गलतियां ना करे. मैंने भी करा है, मेरी भावेन से भी बहुत बात हुई थी, मेरी कप्पा से भी बहुत बात हुई थी. बहुत हार्ड होता है स्टार्टिंग में, बट फॉर द ग्रेटर गुड वो एक शिफ्ट ना आना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि वो शिफ्ट नहीं है, जब तक वो शिफ्ट नहीं आएगा ना, कैसे नए प्लेयर आएंगे भाई. कौन बैठ के स्काउट कर रहा है, कौन बैठ के निकाल रहा है, कौन बैठ के सिखा रहा है उन्हें, कोई नहीं. रैंक डी खेलते रह जाएंगे भाई वो.
We had all 5 Indian rosters
Correct.
who did at every opportunity compete internationally. We took them to Singapore 3 times so that they could compete at all these events. And wahan bhi we saw like every event they kept getting further. But even so, even the people at that event, जो 5 हमारे खुद के players हैं, वो खुद बोलते हैं कि the Indian players aren't good enough to get there.
हमने ब्रो बहुत ट्राई करी है, बहुत कोशिश करी है. जब भाविन, कप्पा, रॉसी, स्किल्स, कोलू,
हाँ, मींस मैं अभी ये रिवील कर सकता हूँ, मैं एक सेकंड अभी ये रिवील कर सकता हूँ. We have spent more than $500,000 into the Valorant ecosystem before we got into VCT, before we even knew that there was a roadmap or anything is going to happen. उतना हम लोग ने already खर्च किया था between our roster, the bootcamp, getting everything set up, and we had invested that in the ecosystem without anything in return. Riot saw our roadmap, they saw everything that we had done and everything we had planned for the future and how we plan to go about it, and that's why we got into the league. हम लोग को एक एक्सीडेंटली नहीं मिला, हम लोग ने ऑलरेडी उतना कर लिया था, इसीलिए मिला. सो वी हैव, इट्स नॉट लाइक वी डोंट वांट टू इन्वेस्ट और हैव एनीथिंग अगेंस्ट द इकोसिस्टम. यही इकोसिस्टम ने हमें यहाँ तक लाके दिया. सो
और उसी को ही ना, जस्ट उसी सेम इकोसिस्टम को ना ग्रास रूट लेवल पे आई थिंक अभी डेवलप करने का टाइम आ चुका है.
दिस इज द मेजर प्रॉब्लम इन इंडिया, राइट. ऐसा कोई भी टैलेंट का पाइपलाइन नहीं है. There's no such dedicated
Correct.
place जहाँ से young player निकल के आ रहे हैं.
Right.
Sometimes we have seen academy programs which work a lot. Like for Genji, it works. They had a Genji academy. वहाँ से उनने 1-2 players उठाए.
And
thank you for segueing me into the next part.
Yes, let's get into the academy part.
That is what we are going to do in the next year with the VCL ऐसे team. Next year तो करेंगे, but already universe के साथ काम start हो चुका है उसमें. We have already started scouting players जो एकदम young है.
So उसके बारे में I would like to say a little bit. When I said earlier everything I said about the Indian players, I will say a few other things. Someone asked me in chat, if you don't have any Indian player, then why should Indians support you? So I said you shouldn't. You should support. All Indians should support whatever VCT team they are attached to or whatever VCT team they feel close to. If you want to support us for being Indian, then don't do it because of our roster. Support it because the org owners, the management, the content team, the studio, everyone else behind it is Indian. We are paying tax in India. We're probably the highest tax paying esports org in the country. Everything we're doing is in India. Our contribution to esports has been in India. If those 5 players that we also want those 5 players to get there, if they aren't qualified yet, it's not our fault. We're not complaining about it. We are building an academy program to figure it out. We didn't know the solution. हमारे पास भी उसका कोई solution नहीं था. हमने भी सोचा 1-1, 2-2 इंडियन प्लेयर्स को बिठा देंगे, शायद वो लेवल अप हो जाएगा. We couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. So now we are trying something else. It's going to be a different approach. It's going to be an all academy roster, an all Indian academy roster, playing in challengers in India, that we are going to. Everything we've learned from VCT, everything we have learned from all the orgs, we can now implement an academy program to help level up the entire Indian ecosystem. Our goal in the next 2 years, 2025, 2026, is to level up Indian players and the Indian ecosystem to generate the next level of talent for VCT from India, regardless of whether they play in G's team or no. मैं तो चाहता हूँ कि Sentinels, Fnatic, DRX सारे यहाँ आए scouting के लिए. We want to set up a scouting program here that all other teams travel to India to pick up players. Everyone talks about Turkish players. Everyone talks about Korean players. Everyone talks about American players. Why don't people talk about Indian players? That's what we want to set up. It shouldn't be the responsibility of G as an org to have players in our roster. It should be the responsibility of all of us collectively as a community to grow homegrown talent and level them up to the point that everyone is coming to India to scout talent. That is what we want to build. That's the goal for 2025 and 2026 through our Challenger and Academy program with GE.
There was a list of all these players from EMEA under 16 who are already good enough. These guys are 15. There's not even 16. They're all just 15, 14-year-olds. Wow. There was a list of different countries. And then I saw Turkey.
Yeah.
There was 25 to 30, just 15-year-olds who apparently are already good enough to be playing in the VCT. And I look at it, I'm like, even if one player was Indian, I could see the Indian flag there, it would be
it would break the internet. Twitter पे सब लोग बोल रहे थे ये player को ले लो. Everyone would be tagging us and saying ये player को ले लो. And हम ले भी लेते. क्यों नहीं? Why wouldn't we? We need players like that. हमें भी चाहिए. Like I said, for us it would be so easy if we had 5 Indian star players that would help us win at VCT. Because what could be a better thing for global esports? हमारे लिए तो that's win for us.
I think this one thing that the audience perspective is they want to win also, but they also want to see Indians win also.
But I think they can't happen at the same time.
मैं एक perspective बोलूँगा.
But there's a bridge to get there. हाँ, Vatsal, go ahead.
मेरा perspective है bro, देख. We are in here to win. हमने तो अनाउंस करा हर जगह कि भाई हम ट्रायल्स करने वाले हैं, ठीक है. हमने क्राइटेरिया डाला कि भाई लास्ट 2 सीजन एक्ट में आप रेडियंट होने चाहिए. उस क्राइटेरिया को लेके मेरे पास फ्रॉम एंटायर एसए रीजन आई हैव 12 एंट्रीज. 12 प्लेयर्स में से भी ना सिर्फ 7 से 8 लोग वर इन tier 1 orgs.
That is Indian tier 1 orgs.
Indian tier 1
South
orgs.
Asia. This was ऐसे. Only ऐसे.
अगर मेरे पास लास्ट 2 एक्ट में जिसका क्राइटेरिया रेडियंट है, 12 प्लेयर की एंट्री है मेरे फॉर्म में, कैसे 5 इंडियन निकाल सकता हूं मैं उस 12 लोग में से, जिसमें से 2 लोग आए भी नहीं क्योंकि उन्हें दूसरा इवेंट खेलना था. अभी जैसे टेक्नो आया, he played really good. Deathmaker played really good.
Yeah.
Deathmaker, हम तो बहुत पहले से Deathmaker को जानते, सन्नी को CS:GO के डेज से.
And मैं तो इतना भी, I know you're moving on to another name, but I would like to say one thing about Deathmaker. I was so impressed with his gameplay. Right. I was actually like, bro, ये बंदा खेल सकता है VCT में. Until I saw every other player that tried out after him at that role. And I'm like, bro,
अलग level है.
How is there such a big difference? And that's it. I was like, ठीक है bro, ठीक है. जो coaches बोल रहे हैं, जो बाकी सब बोल रहे हैं, सही है. What do I know? हाँ, फर्क 19-20 में नहीं है. We also discussed
100-200 का फर्क है यार.
अगर 19-20 फर्क है, let's go for the Indian player, उनको सिखा देंगे. फर्क, like if the Indian player was at 5-6, the competition was like at 19-20. Like उतना बड़ा gap था. So that is too big a gap for us to fill. Those kind of gaps can be filled at challengers and ascension. We can't be filling those gaps at VCT. Not on stage. Not when हमारे पास 10-12 matches साल के हैं.
I think recently even Talon had announced their academy as well, right? Talon. वहाँ पे I don't think they had a criteria of. I'm not sure if they had or not a criteria of radiant, but like, I reposted that on Twitter. I got around 10-15,000 views or something, and I just told. You know what, guys? If you're not able to do it in India, if you're not finding a team in India, just go, just at least audition to do, kuch to karo.
I also know pata chalega how far you are.
Exactly. I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter. Just go try. Will you get in? Great. You won't get in. At least you'll know, what's the thing.
Yeah.
And then after a month after that happened, I asked people who I knew would be, good enough to probably try in that. I found out that not a single Indian even tried to get into that
उनको
academy.
पता है, they know they're so far apart, try नहीं करते, जो try करना भी चाहिए नहीं करते.
आप जब उस डेटा को देखते हो ना, डेटा can back what the reality is. Abhi
Which is
theek
why
hai,
I'm glad this season, our tryouts, every single match we recorded, we literally have a spreadsheet data-wise and role-wise of every player based on the number of matches they played. Means 200, 300 rounds का data है हमारे पास of who has played what, how much, how well, and then we've compared it to how they played on stage, off stage, scrim results, all of those we have matched, and it's a very, very evidence-based approach that we've got this season, because at the end of the day, that's if you can't perform in game, everything else is useless.
I'm glad that you mentioned that there's an evidence-based approach in 2025 का season. So I like how the philosophy has also changed, right? Like in 2023 में हमने focus किया फायर पावर लेंगे, फायर पावर वाले प्लेयर्स मिल गए, उनको हम एक टीम बना देंगे. 2024 में वो चेंज हुआ कि लाइक एक टीम अच्छी बन जाए, फायर पावर नहीं भी हो तो चल जाएगा.
This year फायर पावर ना थी, I would say, I'm not gonna say कि
थी फायर पावर थी ब्रो,
फायर पावर थी,
कंसिस्टेंसी नहीं थी, वो फायर पावर निकलने में कंसिस्टेंसी
नहीं थी, और वो जो स्टेज पे we majorly lacked stage performance, I would say.
And you also mentioned season 1 and season 2. I'll also say a fun fact. Hypothetically, season 1, अगर हमारे पास 5 Indians होते हमारे roster में, we would have been disqualified because they wouldn't have been able to make it on stage for the match, and they would have missed the match for visa. Because all the other players that were on stage were non-Indians, because Indians का visa time पे नहीं हो पाया. And Riot was very clear, if your team can't make it on stage, you will be disqualified from the event because you can't miss a VCT event. So हम लोग अगर इंडिया, वी वर फॉर्चुनेट कि हमारे पास 5 नॉन इंडियन प्लेयर्स थे जिनका वीजा हो पाया टाइम पे, एंड वी कुड गेट देम ऑन स्टेज. अदरवाइज वी वुड हैव बीन डिस्क्वालिफाइड इन सीजन 1 ओनली. हमारी वहीं लग जाती.
डैम, फिर हम यहाँ पे पहुंचते ही नहीं.
हम यहाँ तक नहीं पहुंचते. इमेजिन.
करेक्ट. उस प्रोसेस को भी ना स्ट्रीमलाइन करने में हमें
उसमें वत्सल का बहुत बड़ा हाथ था और 1.5 साल लगे.
बहुत टाइम लगा सीखने में, बट स्ट्रीमलाइन करने में भी टाइम लगा, क्योंकि बहुत कुछ समझने और सीखने को मुझे एज एन इंडिविजुअल में मिला. हाँ, बैक टू द टॉपिक, राइट. इंडियन टैलेंट और कौन कितनी मेहनत कर रहा है, VCLSA में क्या होने वाला है. तो अपना गोल पर्सपेक्टिव यही है, टैलेंट, यंग टैलेंट लाना है जिसको वी कैन मोल्ड, वी कैन शो द डायरेक्शन, वी कैन प्रोवाइड रिसोर्सेस, बेटर सपोर्ट स्टाफ जो सिखाए और उनकी ट्रेजेक्टरी अपवर्ड्स करे. किसी से भी पूछो ना, if you want to, we are interested in you and we want to take you in the VCT, the first is I want to be in playing 5. अरे भाई,
and salary कितनी दोगे? That's the first, and second is what?
Playing 5 क्या होता है यार, right? I understand कि एक प्लेयर को the play time is when they are young.
Wait, I'll give you an example. Vatsal, wait, I'll give you an example. Imagine someone gets selected either in an IPL team or the Indian cricket team, the Indian World Cup team, and their first question is, am I in the playing 11 or no? What I feel is that at least the players that we have seen and we have worked with or we have interacted with from South Asia in general, across titles, this is not like targeting any one title or any one team. I think Indian players में वो भूख कम है और वो बहुत easily भूख मिट जाते हैं. जो हंगरी भी है, बहुत easily वो भूख मिट जाती है. Like for them, अगर एक ऑग में मिल गया मुझे opportunity, I have made it. Like मुझे ऑग से ऑफर मिल गया, भले वो 50,000 1 लाख को हो, for them I have made it. Like many a times, if they, for example, if they get into a VCT team, for them that's just I have made it. That's not when you have made it. You made it when you win the trophy. That is, you have got an opportunity to now show that you can make it. Your hunger needs to ignite when you get the opportunity. For most people, that opportunity is getting into a team. So एक tier 1 ऑग ने मुझे ऑफर दे दिया, अरे हो गया मेरा भी रिटायरमेंट हो गया, लाइफ सॉर्ट हो गया, महीने का 1 लाख सैलरी मिल जाएगा, I'm good. I am now an esports athlete. Bio में change कर देंगे. I am professionally. This is my career now. I am sorted. हर महीने 1 लाख मिल जाएगा. Life is good. अभी next talk बढ़ा के देगी तो ही करेंगे. They almost look at it like a government pension job. Like मेरे को मिल गया, like रेलवे की नौकरी मिल गई ना, मेरी लाइफ सॉर्ट है, मेरे को और कुछ नहीं करना है. हर महीने या हर साल बस इंक्रीमेंट होते रहे. I am good. I am comfortable. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to change anything. कुछ करना नहीं है. दे डोंट लुक एट इट लाइक ब्रो मुझे अभी अपॉर्चुनिटी, अभी मेरे को प्रूव करके ये जीतता है, फिर वो प्रूव करके वो जीतता है। जब तक मुझे वो वीसीटी का ट्रॉफी या बीजीआईएस या बीएमपीएस या पीएमजीसी या जो भी हाईएस्ट लेवल का ऑनर एंड ट्रॉफी ऑन अर्थ, जब तक वो नहीं मिलता, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू स्लीप। माय कंपटीशन इज हुएवर इज फाइटिंग फॉर दैट ट्रॉफी, नो वन एल्स। देयर आर वेरी फ्यू प्लेयर्स हु live, eat, and breathe that. Even if they say it, their actions don't follow through with their words. Next guy who offers them 1.5 lakh, they're like, okay, done, side, let's go. Okay. तो हो गया, भूख मिट गई, काम खत्म हो गया, रिलैक्स। क्यों ग्राइंड नहीं कर रहे हो? अरे यार मन नहीं कर रहा है, 3 मैप खेल के हो गया दिन।
कितने लीडर बोर्ड में है टॉप 500 में? अगर तुम देखोगे ना, हाउ
अरे बट इंडिया से पिंग विंग भी तो आती है। I know,
70 पिंग पे कैसे जाएंगे रेडिएंट?
DOS9 proved everyone wrong. I'll also say that. जितने भी इंडियन प्लेयर्स कंप्लेन करते हैं पिंग फ्रॉम इंडिया, DOS9 proved it. वो थर्ड या फोर्थ है कुछ है, रॉसी भी आ चुका है, टेक्नो भी आ चुका है, जो प्लेयर्स को करना है वो आ चुके हैं। इट्स नॉट लाइक वो नहीं, टॉप 10 में आ चुके हैं।
राइट।
मैं तो बोलता अगर नॉट दैट रैंक मैटर्स, बट अगर इंडिया की ऑग्स रैंक क्राइटेरिया डाल दे, आधे से ज्यादा टियर 1 प्लेयर्स टियर 2 टियर 3 हो जाएंगे। आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट जस्ट इंडिया. It will force them also to grind. It's not that your rank matters. It's just a little bit of a discipline. It's there in the game for a reason, right? Go from competitive to premier. Go from premier to challengers. Go from challengers to ascension. Ascension to VCT. There is literally a path to pro right there for you. Start over there. Start grinding on ranked. I don't think if any Indian player who is not in an org right now gets to the top 100, that there won't be an org that's willing to sign them.
मैं भी प्रोफेशनल प्लेयर रह चुका हूँ, मैं भी ओवरवॉच खेलता था, मेरी टीम थी, 6 से 8 घंटे हम भी स्क्रिम खेलते थे, वॉर रिव्यू करते थे, बट हमारे में वो भी पैशन था कि नहीं भाई मैं खेल रहा हूँ तो मुझे लीडर बोर्ड में रहना ही रहना है, मैं टीम में हूँ, मेरे पास ऑर्ग है जो मुझे इतना सब कुछ रिसोर्सेज दे रही है, पे कर रही है, I have to put everything.
वत्सल ये हवा मेरी बोल रहे because I have seen him grind EU server पे 90 100 ping पे to top 500 in Overwatch. He has walked the walk. He's not just saying कि हाँ grind करो, बोलने के लिए नहीं बोल रहा है।
अभी अगर मुझे कोई प्लेयर आके बोलता है कि यार मुझे रैंक्ड खेलने में इंटरेस्ट नहीं है, ठीक है, अंडरस्टूड, बट यार दैट मींस यू डोंट एंजॉय द गेम, यू डोंट लव द गेम।
तो वो भूख कहीं से आएगी?
वो भूख नहीं दिखती, राइट? कोई कोई होते हैं जिनको रैंड नहीं जसता और स्क्रिम में मारते और टूर्नामेंट में खेलते हैं तो भी मारते हैं, राइट? तुम स्क्रिम में भी मार रहे हो, स्क्रिम में भी इंप्रूव कर रहे हो, टूर्नामेंट में तुमसे हो नहीं रहा और तुम रैंक्ड भी ग्राइंड नहीं कर रहे, तो भाई क्या लेवल की इंप्रूवमेंट है? ऐसे इकोसिस्टम में 60 प्लेयर्स हैं, ठीक है, 60 प्लेयर में से 30 से 40 प्लेयर ये सब चीजें नहीं कर रहे, कहां से इकोसिस्टम आगे बढ़ेगा भाई? कहां से प्लेयर डेवलपमेंट होगा? ऑर्ग ने तो कोच लाके दे दिया, ऑर्ग ने परफॉर्मेंस कोच भी लाके दे दिया, ऑर्ग तो भाई सब कुछ ही दे रही है, क्या प्लेयर एक्स्ट्रा कर रहा है फॉर हिज इंडिविजुअल ग्रोथ? ठीक है, टीम की ग्रोथ हो रही है, स्क्रिम हो जाते हैं, प्रैक्टिस हो जाती है, वॉर सेशन हो जाता है, फीडबैक हो जाता है, टीम एनवायरनमेंट बन जाता है, टीम कोहेजन बन जाता है, टीम मेंटालिटी बन जाती है। अरे इंडिविजुअली एक प्लेयर का गोल क्या है वो भी तो मैटर करता है ना। गोल ये नहीं हो सकता ना मैं सुबह या 10 बजे उठूंगा, वार्ड रिव्यू करूंगा, स्क्रिम खेलूंगा, वार्ड रिव्यू करूंगा, खाना खाऊंगा और सो जाऊंगा। कहाँ है इंडिविजुअल ग्रोथ? अभी ये जो यंग प्लेयर्स आ रहे हैं वो ये थोड़ा थोड़ा समझ रहे, रैंक ग्राइंड करते हैं, खेलते हैं, जो वो लुकअप टू करते हैं ना, वही रोल मॉडल्स, वही लीडर्स इन द इंडस्ट्री जो अभी भी खेल रहे हैं। अरे अगर वो ही लेड बैक होंगे, उन्हीं में हंगर और ड्राइव नहीं
फायर उनमें होनी चाहिए।
जो 17 18 और 16 साल के यंग प्लेयर्स आ रहे हैं जो रैंक राइड कर रहे हैं, अभी मैं देखता हूँ ट्विटर में इतने लोग मोन्टाजेस डालते हैं, टैग करते हैं, ये करते हैं, क्यों कर रहे हैं वो लोग? राइट, ग्राइंड कर रहे हैं, डाल रहे हैं, एफर्ट डाल रहे हैं, एक्स्ट्रा कर रहे हैं कुछ, दे वांट टू गेट बेटर, राइट? जो यंग एथलीट आ रहे हैं मेरे हिसाब से तो वो अभी ना जो स्विच आना है ना जिसमें सारे पुराने प्लेयर्स बाहर हो जाएंगे और अभी यंग, आई बिलीव ऑलरेडी वो स्प्लिट 3 में दिखना चालू हो चुका है।
I think शुरू हो गया। I think we have seen the new generation starting.
From a G perspective, we want to make sure we will, put in resources and everything it takes to make a team which will support those young athletes.
So I think, Universe, based on what you had said earlier, that list, we are hoping that very soon there are more Indian players on that list. Like, we would rather invest our time, effort, and resources on a young 16-year-old kid who will in the next 2 years become 18 and ready for VCT, as opposed to a 26-year-old who's going to probably retire in the next 2 years. Every org in the world will start coming to India to start recruiting
Exactly.
players. We want to make India the hub for talent for VCT. What Turkey is becoming right now, what Korea is becoming right now, what NA parts of Europe are becoming right now. We want to be able to do that for India. That's our goal with our academy project the next 2 years. Because that's not going to happen just by taking 5 players and putting them at the highest tier. That is not going to develop Indian talent. That is not going to do anything in India. We tried that. We've done that. It's not going to work.
स्टार्टिंग में जब पर्सपेक्टिव था ना कि ठीक है भाई, मैं इस टीम से ये बेस्ट प्लेयर ले लूंगा, इस टीम से ये बेस्ट प्लेयर ले लूंगा और 5 बेस्ट प्लेयर की टीम बना दूंगा जो VCL भी जीतेंगे और वन साइडेड जीतेंगे. बट वो गोल नहीं है. गोल है यंग टैलेंट जिनको हम खेलना सिखा सके, इंडिविजुअल जिनके नाम किसी ने नहीं सुने हैं, ऐसे प्लेयर्स, इंस्टेड ऑफ फोकसिंग ऑन द सेम टैलेंट जो अभी भी खेल ही रहे, जो टॉप वो ही 5-10
उनको तो हराएंगे ब्रो. एक साल में यही चेहरों को यू विल सी कि हमारे नए बच्चे हरा रहे. So, and मैं उसका नाम भी अभी इधर ऑफिशियली अनाउंस कर देता हूँ. Global Esports Academy is going to be the name of our Challengers roster.
Global Esports Academy.
Yes, that will be what our Challengers roster is called, and it's going to be competing against all the other Challengers teams in India.
In 2025, split 1, split 2.
Starting, yes.
Well, I guess next year for VCSA, we have a promising new team to look out for. But I also want to talk about VCT. Now, our tryouts have pretty much ended. We are on the verge of finalizing our playing roster.
Let's go. 2025 roster time.
Yeah. And while we obviously know who they are, the audience doesn't. I don't think we can tell them right away. I mean, I think we'll have to wait till announcement. But I want to show the audience what our perspective was when we were selecting these players.
Specific to what we are trying to do in the next season is building a team around an experienced IGL, जिसके पास experience है और उसके around 3 से 4 young heavy hitter. Criteria was they want to win, they have hunger, they can give up everything on their plate just to be there at the VCT.
And they are the best at their role and can gel well as a cohesive unit.
अब जैसे हेरिटिक्स का मॉडल है, राइट, एक्सपीरियंस है लोगों में और यंग प्लेयर्स भी है. वी वांटेड टू हैव समथिंग सिमिलर कि 1 से 2 प्लेयर एक्सपीरियंस है जिन्होंने खेला है, जीते भी है, विद यंग हैवी हिटर्स हु नोज देयर रिस्पेक्टिव रोल्स.
We want to make sure that there are people who've got stage experience and off-stage experience, because ऐसा नहीं हो कि पहली टाइम स्टेज पे हमारे साथ आके खेल रहे सारे. There should be enough who've been on stage, one on stage, got that exposure, so they can help the guys that haven't been there.
हम सारे फेलियर क्राइटेरियाज एक एक करके हटा रहे हैं जो हमारे सीजन 1 और सीजन 2 में हुए हैं, टू मेक श्योर वी आर नॉट रिपीटिंग द सेम मिस्टेक्स. एंड जो भी प्रॉब्लम्स हो रही है और जो हमें लग रही है अराइज होने वाली है, उसका सोल्यूशन instantly, lake we move forward.
Not just through our mistakes, also learning from other VCT teams. We're communicating regularly. We're talking to all the other team owners. We're talking to the team managers, not just in our region and other regions as well. Understanding their problems, seeing how they solved it, because a lot of the problems that we are facing today, उन्होंने शायद 5 साल पहले, 10 साल पहले, 2 साल पहले, या maybe last month already face करके solve कर लिया हो.
In order to win, I think one of the things that we were lacking is like an in-game personality. Like for example, if you take a look at Paper Rex, they have a clear W gaming personality. वो उनका अंदर स्टाइल बन चुका है. Same with DRX or Genji. They have very disciplined setups. DRX relies on the discipline, and Genji sometimes relies on disruption also. So what do you think our team personality would be like?
For now, the word that I would like to use is explosive, but I don't want to preemptively say anything till I get everyone in the bootcamp and we start seeing them in action. But as of right now, that's a word that I would like to use.
Some of the players that we've seen in the tryouts were just so damn good, and we've seen players from every region, from every league, like from EMEA, Pacific,
like we did
Oceania,
tryouts all across every league. I think our tryouts spanned across 7 servers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
7 servers that we tried out, and I think everyone in the scouting team, the coaching staff, the management is very happy with our shortlist. I don't think there is anyone who we are like, "Arey, ye nahi मिला या ये नहीं होना चाहिए था." every single player were all like, perfect, we're good, all good, we're fine.
I know you can't say the names. At least एक nationality distribution दे दो, region wise distribution दे दो, उतना तो league दे ही सकते हैं, right?
हाँ, मैं उतना तो बोल सकता हूँ. Now we have one import and the rest are from Pacific.
अच्छा, one import and rest from Pacific. ठीक है. Import from EMEA.
We have one import and then the rest are from Pacific. Yeah.
Okay.
For as much Rushi sir loves to give out leaks, he's keeping it very much intact.
है ना, like he's going against his own personality.
No, I said no. We have one import and we have the rest are from Pacific. अभी और क्या बोलूं?
Should we head to the Twitter AMAs?
Okay,
cool.
then. Twitter AMA round 1.
The first question comes from a person called Yug.
Very familiar name.
Oh, very familiar name. Okay, so he has asked, how many players were in the trials and what do we expect the roster to be? At least for second part, to usne, I think we've sufficiently answered. How many players were in the open tryouts?
When we put our form out, we had almost 500 players that initially filled it up on the first day itself. By the end of it, I think right now the form is sitting at just under 1,000. Many of which who did not fill that criteria, who were not eligible because they did not fill all the criteria that we had. From the ones that were eligible were about 300 or 400. Chisme se I would say about half of them were from our region. The remaining half were from outside Pacific. And then the filtration process began and then Vatsal can tell you the rest.
We had to filter with specific role कि भाई ये बंदा है, इसका ये criteria है. He has played in tier 2 region, locally, domestically क्या खेला है, क्या stats है उस region के. We came down to final 90 players from Asia Pacific. These are the open tryouts जो 90 players खेले हैं individually, जिनके stats recorded है, wards है. From 90 we have shortlisted to 60, 60 to 30, 30 to 20 and 20 to 10.
And ये सब हुआ by just virtue of watching them play. Multiple rounds, multiple games.
Them play because we're hiring them to play. After that, we had a closed trials where all the people from open move forward, and then there were players that were already in tier 1 or were competing somewhere who we invited, who we felt would be the right fit for our team, or we felt deserved the opportunity. We invited them, and that also included our existing players who were signed to us. So those people came in and closed trials. So closed trials was another 25-30 people that came in.
You can visibly see the difference between open tryout and closed tryout. तो obviously होना ही था. वहां से एक सेंटिनल दूसरा सेंटिनल की टीम से कैसे क्या मैचअप है.
Then head-to-head started.
Head-to-head started.
It's like, hey, if these are for each role, example, if these are the two best sentinels that we had at each role, they would be in opposing teams and we'd see how they performed against each other.
Right. And same for duelist, same for IGL, same for flex player, same for controller player or initiator.
And we kept rotating players, moving them from one team to another team. If one team became too overpowered, we moved them. Sometimes we intentionally made a weaker team and saw how players or IGLs or duelists perform on a weaker team and see whether they get tilted, how they perform, how they communicate with the rest of their team.
They try to simulate every possible situation, put you on a strong team. How do you react when you're absolutely destroying the opponent? How do you react when you're absolutely getting destroyed?
Abhi we had Pacific trials and we had EMEA trials, right? हमने सबको 30 मिनट पहले का, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल अगर 11:30 आना था तो हमने प्लेयर लोगों को बोला था कम इन डिस्कॉर्ड बाय 11 o'clock and start here, all the 5 individuals in both the A team और B team needs to come in Discord and वहाँ बैठ के बात करो क्या सीन है. पैसिफिक वाले आते थे, बात करते थे, मस्ती वस्ती करते थे और फिर स्क्रिम में we used to start, give the lobby code and we used to start the matches and observe. See the difference between Pacific and EMEA. EMEA वाले whoever, तो हमने जब लिस्ट देते थे ना, हम उसमें ऑलरेडी स्टार टैग कर देते कि जिसके नाम के ऊपर स्टार है वो IGL होने वाला है.
Yeah, so players were told कौन IGL करेगा, कौन क्या रोल खेलने वाला है, वो हमने उनको ऑलरेडी बता के रखा था पहले.
एक दिन पहले बता दिए थे रोल्स और मैप्स और IGL कौन है. अभी क्या हुआ ना, जब EMEA ट्रायल से तो जो भी IGL था ना 30-45 मिनट्स पहले ऑलरेडी डिस्कॉर्ड पे पिंग करता था, सबको बिठाया डिस्कॉर्ड में, वैलो प्लांट में ले जाके ड्रिल्स चल रहे कि ऐसे एग्जीक्यूट करेंगे, ये करेंगे. You see that leadership thing.
No one told them to do that.
Exactly, that was extra.
He didn't say. In Pacific मस्ती चल रही है, जब तक लॉबी कोड नहीं दिया जा रहा मस्ती चल रही है, बातें चल रही है. अभी उन्होंने भी देखा ना कि सामने वाले EMEA, so next day
immediately उन्होंने, because they saw that hey, this is what was happening in EMEA, they learned, they immediately saw that oh वो वहाँ चल रहे, हम लोग अभी मस्ती नहीं, हम लोग भी ये करते. अगले दिन उन्होंने भी किया.
तो ये हमारे लिए भी रहा कि okay, this is a sign of good leadership.
वो बोलते हैं ना लाइब्रेरी में जब बैठोगे खुद पढ़ाई करना शुरू कर दे because you see everyone else around you studying. It's that kind of environment that matters.
And the vibe of the tryout changed so much from start to end. Like, this is something that even I noticed and I saw it evolve so much. Like, open tryouts में अगर हम 11:30 को मैच स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं, 11 बजे उनको आने बोलते हैं, कोई कोई लोग ऐसे रहेंगे जो 11:15, 11:20 तक आ जाएंगे, या फिर डिस्कॉर्ड में आके बस बैठेंगे, म्यूट करके चुप होके बैठ जाएंगे, फिर एक बार लॉबी कोड आया तो अपना मुंह खोलेंगे कि हाँ चलो अभी खेलने का वक्त आ गया है. A lot of these players were from South Asia as well.
Who actually cares enough about winning? I think that's also very important. Like, some people are just there. Sometimes just showing up is not enough. Because everyone's showing up. You have 90 people that are competing for that same spot. Just showing up is not. What makes you stand out? What makes you better? These are already 90 that have been filtered down from probably the 90,000 that want to or say they want to. Right? Yeah. So when you keep filtering it down, what is going to make you that one person that gets that spot on the team? You have to outwork everyone else. You have to outsmart everyone else. You have to out aim everyone else. At every level, you have to be better. You can't be content. You can't be relaxed. You can't just be like, ठीक है, देख लेंगे, हो जाएगा, नहीं होगा.
All right.
Okay, let's go to the next question. And let's try to keep the answers a little shorter.
Yeah, and I forgot we're in the Twitter AMA section and ये थोड़ा ज़्यादा लंबा discussion हो गया about what the trials. Who were the Indian players that went up until the last round? Should I
don't
say
know
names?
We should say. Let's not name names. I think a lot of people know because they were talking. Many of the players are being stalked on their profiles and screenshots are being shared on Twitter and Discord and everywhere. So I'm sure you can figure that out. You don't need us to tell you that.
तीन नाम मैं बोल देता हूँ: Techno, DM, Golu.
Very interesting question from Spacey2824. Did any female applicants apply for the tryouts?
I don't think so. Surprisingly, I don't think we had any applicants. I don't think so.
Damn.
Which is
that is kind of sad.
Unfortunate. Yeah. Hopefully one day.
The next question is from a person who wants to know what kind of off-season are we looking at?
Now that our roster is built and hopefully by the time you'll are watching this, some players would have already started arriving at our boot camp. Right. And I think it's going to get, I'm going to go back to the word I used before. It's going to be explosive. This off-season is going to be explosive.
Are we participating in any events yet?
We have announced a few, but we can't talk about the rest till they officially come out. So
the next question we have is from Anupam Patel. Are you building around a certain player or any particular person?
For sure, we are building around a specific person. The name is still confidential and we can't really tell the name, but yes, we are building around one specific player who we think is vocal enough and will keep the team together.
Is this person the IGL or the coach or what?
IGL.
When can we expect the roster announcement to come out? End of this month, maybe?
I would say you will know our entire roster before October ends. Everything. All our roster, all our players, everything. Before the month ends, you will have everything. Right. And they will all be, hopefully, all at the bootcamp practicing also by the time the month ends.
Okay. And once we have sorted out the VCT roster, when are we looking to start on the VCSA roster?
We have started a little work on the back end, but now that our VCT roster is finally all in place and by the end of October, everything should be done on that front. November, I would say, is the month where you will see similar things like application form, tryouts, all of those things should begin in November.
Usme na, this year, we will implement a cross-pollination between our VCL team and VCT team where there will be a massive knowledge sharing between both the teams, probably, having a weekly scrim structure where our VCLSA team can directly have scrim time with our VCT team. So we need to make sure कि, अभी ठीक है हमने youngsters ले लिए VCLSA team में, but उनको वो exposure भी
better होना पड़ेगा. And they're not going to get better by playing with other teams in India. They'll get better by playing against better players. That's our goal, is to get them to play against better players.
What are certain core values जो हम इस साल implement करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, which we haven't done before?
I have already started working with the coaches and support staff and Bhaving with building those team core values. But जो एक दो core values होने वाली है, having winning as a habit, कि winning mindset से जाना है. We are there to win and nothing else.
Value number 1, win. Value number 2, do whatever it takes to win. Value number 3, look above.
Very soon, हमारा full roster भी announce हो जाएगा. So most of your questions will be answered, and we will be coming back with more podcasts soon to give you a perspective of what's happening inside the team. And of course, I would like you to subscribe to this channel to stay tuned for more updates and like it if you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you so much for watching.